Hi everyone, and welcome to another of Sethaldor's Guides. We're going to do PvP Feral Cat Druid specking this time around. So, for picking Feral Combat, we get Mangle, which does some damage and increases the effect of bleeds. We get Aggression to increase our AP. We also get Feral Instinct to reduce chance enemies have to find us while we're prowling, and we get the Mastery Razor Claws, which causes our bleeds to do 25% more effectiveness, and that scales 3.1% per 1 point of Mastery. So, first row we have Feral Swiftness, Fur, and Predatory Strikes. Feral Swiftness is a no-brainer for the speed increase, as speed increase in PvP is very vital, in case you are chasing someone or trying to run away. Also, Fur would be nice, because in PvP, more often than not, that is when you're going to be shifting in between forms or even out of forms, more so than in PvE, because you have to shift out to heal yourself, which you might find yourself doing a lot. Definitely pick up Fur because you're going to be switching in and out to do Cyclone, Entangling Roots, heal spells. Switching into Bear, you can have some Rage to get your Charge or Skull Bash off. It's just nice to not have to worry about the crap, I have no resource effect. And then we can go to the next row, Infected Wounds, definitely pick that up, and Fury Swipes. Infected Wounds is nice because coupling that with Feral Swiftness, you can really outmaneuver your opponent, because Feral Swiftness will increase your speed by 30%, and Infected Wounds, when fully applied, will reduce the target's movement speed by 50%, making an 80% difference between your movement speed and their movement speed. So you're moving a net 80% faster than them, assuming they have no other move increases. So you can really outmaneuver them. If it's a caster, you shouldn't have any problem getting behind them. If they try to run, you got them nailed. If you try to run and you were just fighting him, he'll be moving slower, so you're better off at getting away. It's nice. The attack speed reduction isn't bad too. And then picking up Fury Swipes, a lot of what you're going to be doing is auto-attacking as a cat, because you have a base 1 second attack speed, and then you stack haste on top of that, and it's just ridiculously better, because it's going to drop from 1 to, I think mine right now is 0.8, 0.9, and that's an Ulduar gear, so, I mean, guys in ICC Feral Cat gear should be doing crazy haste. And what Fury Swipes does is it allows you to get a free additional attack for a lot of damage in, so that's obviously a good thing to pick up. More damage you push out, faster someone dies. Self-explanatory. Next row we have King of the Jungle, Feral Charge, and Stampede, as well as Thick Hide. Gonna pick up King of the Jungle for the effect on Tiger's Fury, which causes it to restore 60 energy, which is fantastic, because if you're trying to burn someone down, say a healer, you can just bust that Tiger's Fury and bam, you have an extra 60 energy after you burn Pounce, Double Shred, Ferocious Bite, all of a sudden, or Maim. All of a sudden you can say, hey, I've got 60 more, shred, wait 2 seconds, bam, Ferocious Bite again. So it's really good for pushing out that heavy damage. Picking up Feral Charge, self-explanatory, because it dazes the target when you do it. Also, it gets you to them immediately, as well as getting you behind them right away, so your stealth moves are ready to go the second you reach your target, because most of your stealth moves require you to be behind the target. And also, on top of that, because you're going to be using your Feral Leap a lot, you will have Stampede, and Stampede allows you to use Ravage outside of Stealth and for free. And the reason that's a really good thing is because you're going to be wanting to use Pounce more than Ravage when you come out of Stealth, because that's a healthy stun as well as a bleed, and when the target bleeds, later on in the tree you'll see that increases the damage of some other abilities. So that bleed is nice, but the stun is really what gets you. So if you can keep them stunned and still get a Ravage off, not only that, but the Ravage won't impact your energy at all and still produce the CPs it normally would, that is a ridiculous amount of damage coupled with a stun and a bleed. It is an excellent combo. You want to pick that up. Next we have Leader of the Pack, Brutal Impact, and Nurturing Instinct. Leader of the Pack is 5% more crit, which is self-explanatory, as well as it can heal you for 4% of your total health once every 6 seconds when you crit, which is awesome. Anything that will heal yourself passively in a PvP scenario is obviously one of the really good things. The mana restoration isn't bad either if you find yourself throwing a lot of hots on before you run into a fight. Getting that mana back by critting while you're in cat form passively is nice, that way you have more of it to do as you need. Picking up Brutal Impact is nice because there will be times when you shift out of cat into bear to get the extra stun off from your bash, so if that lasts longer, as well as your pounce stun lasting longer, that's really good, as well as it reduces the cooldown of bash, which is one of your useful stuns, and reduces the cooldown of skull bash, which is your new spell interrupt, and lockout. The more time you have that up, the better, because you don't know what you might run into next, and you really don't want that on cooldown. And also, not only does your Skull Bash now interrupt and lock out, it will cost the caster more to cast his spells after the lockout is done. And for reference, Skull Bash is a 1 minute cooldown, so taking this will drop it to 10-second cooldown, which is much more in line with a lot of the other interrupts. I think Kick is 10 seconds, I know Mind Freeze is 10 seconds, and that leaves 2 points to reach the next row. Put 1 in Stampede, that way you get that completely free Ravage, and also I would go ahead and throw 1 of 2 in Primal Fury in the second row, most likely going to backfill that because that allows you to get 2 CPs in place of 1 when you use a CP generating ability. Faster you get CPs on the target, faster your Maim is ready to go, or your Ferocious Bite is ready to go. Your Maim and Ferocious Bite are going to be your main finishing moves. You could throw Rip on the target. I'm not saying that's a bad idea, I'm just saying that's not particularly optimal because PvP fights generally don't last that long. So I would not use Rip personally. I would stick to Maim and Ferocious Bite. We have in the next row Primal Madness, Survival Instincts, Endless Carnage, and Natural Reaction. Going to pick up Primal Madness because we should be using our Tiger's Fury frequently because it's a nice buff. It's got a moderately short cooldown of 30 seconds, and spec'd properly, it gives us 60 energy back every time we pop it. Now couple that with Primal Madness, which causes it to provide us with 20% increased energy capacity. That makes it so that we can push out even more damage even faster. 120 energy allows you to get an extra shred in that 100 energy wouldn't. Next we have Endless Carnage, also that we picked up, which extends the duration of Rake and Savage Roar. Savage Roar is another finishing move. You may want to keep that up in PvP if you can find the time, but again, I would highly stress focusing on using Maim and Ferocious Bite as your primary and only finishing moves, so that leaves the real reason for taking this to Rake, which is completely debatable. If you think that you're not going to be using Rake that much in a PvP situation and you really don't like spending 2 points to extend it 6 seconds, I would highly recommend spending those elsewhere, such as in perhaps Nurturing Instinct or Feral Aggression or Predatory Strikes in the first row. But I'm taking Endless Carnage because I do use Rake in PvP, and extending it 6 seconds means I don't have to use it as much, because I'd rather be spamming Shred on the target than Rake on the target. 6 more seconds on the bleed means 6 seconds I don't have to worry about re-apping Rake and having that GCD bog you down, which leaves you 1 point to place somewhere. Go ahead and throw it in Primal Fury, that way you get the 2 CP guarantee. Next we have Blood in the Water, we have Rend and Tear, and we have Pulverize. In this row I'm only picking up Rend and Tear because that increases the critical strike chance of Ferocious Bite on bleeding targets. This is why I use Rake. When I come out, I pounce them, eventually that pounce bleed will fall off and you cannot refresh it unless you can re-stealth. So you need a bleed on the target, and Rake is really your only option because I would not burn a CP on Rip just to get this. I would definitely use Rake, and then extending that Rake by 6 seconds allows this to be up longer. And your Ferocious Bite critting is a massive amount of damage, which you will see in the GG files for Feral Druids. There should be an annotation somewhere in this video. I suggest you go check it out. You'll see some nice crits from Ferocious Bite, and they would not have critted most likely if the target wasn't bleeding, which this provides. Also, your Shred does more damage to bleeding targets when you pick this up as well. All the more reason to couple Rake into your PvP rotation, if you will, even though there's no such thing. PvP ability set, I should say. So you want to make them bleed, and then you can spam Shred behind them and couple in your Maim and Ferocious Bite final moves on them. It's really about the get the bleed on, and then your damage will be so much higher. It's crazy. So definitely take the 3 in Rend and Tear, which leaves 2 points left. I personally am going to take Predatory Strikes because the finishing move making the next non-instant nature spell instant in 10 seconds is nice, because that means you can get an instant regrowth, nourish, or healing touch, I believe. Nice, because you will find yourself needing to heal occasionally in a BG. Also, the increased crit chance of Ravage on targets that are fresh of health is nice, because the opening moves you want to use are Stealth, Pounce, Ravage, or rather Stealth, Feral Charge, Pounce, Ravage, because Pounce will be the out of stealth ability, and then you will have the Stampede buff allowing you to Ravage. And if your Ravage crits, that is another high crit damage. Couple that with Ferocious Bite, and those are your two strongest burst damage abilities as a feral cat, especially in a PvP situation. Now that we've spent 30 points, we can earn our Berserk talent, which also benefits from our Primal Madness and will give us 20% increased energy capacity, and it also reduces the cost of all our spells by 50%, so everything's half energy. But possibly more important than the reduced cost of our abilities, only possibly, some of you may disagree with me on this, is that it will remove fear effects and make you immune to them, which is nice. So if you're going up against a Warlock, have your Berserk ready. If you're going up against a Shadow Priest, have your Berserk ready. If there's a Warrior in the area, Berserk will be helpful. So it's definitely a nice couple, as well as it gives some nice bonuses to bear abilities if you find yourself in the situation where you have to go bear form, such as you are carrying the flag and you're getting beaten on and cat form just isn't doing it for you. So that leaves 5 points to recommend where they go. This is, again, the 5 customizable points that I talk about every time. Almost anywhere you put these is fine, and you will still be classified as optimal. I would recommend staying completely away from the balance tree, as they don't provide any benefit to cat form anything at all. If you spend them in the resto tree, I would recommend Natural Shapeshifter and Heart of the Wild, and then hit Master Shapeshifter with 4 left over. You could buff your heals, you could grab some missing stuff in Feral Combat if you'd like. You could even make the argument for Naturalist, which reduces cast time of 2 of your heals, or Blessing of the Grove, which increases healing done by Rejuve. I would actually not be surprised to see a good PvP cat druid with that, or even improved rejuvenation as well. But me personally, I'm going to stay away from a lot of that stuff and focus specifically on the Feral Combat tree. I would recommend Survival Instincts if you find yourself being the flag carrier a lot. I would also recommend Nurturing Instincts, because that allows your agility to help your heals, as well as increase healing done by your hots on yourself when you go back into cat form. That is definitely not a bad thing to pick up in PvP. Thick Hide is nice too, because it will increase your armor, but honestly, I'd rather go for Nurturing Instincts over Thick Hide if I had to pick, and Feral Aggression is definitely nice too. I am indeed going to pick that up, because that will increase damage of Ferocious Bite, which, as I said earlier, is one of the highest damage output bursts that a cat can do, as well as make your Fairy Fire stack up to 3 instantly versus casting it 3 times, which is nice, because that's armor reduction on the target, and in a world without Armor Pen, that's very effective now. Leaving 3 unspent talent points. Again, you can choose where you'd like them. I would stay away from things like Natural Reaction and Pulverize, and definitely do not pick up Blood in the Water for a PvP spec, because that is specifically for RIP. That could be debatable if you are in an arena situation, but I specifically do BGs pretty much, so I would stay away from Blood in the Water. Ignore Pulverize, because that's specifically bear form, which you want to try and stay out of the best you can. Natural Reaction, again, specifically bear form, try and stay out of it. Thick Hide, more bear form than cat form, try and stay out of it. Which leaves Nurturing Instincts and Survival Instincts as 2 of the abilities in Feral Combat left to choose from. And then you could look at Resto Tree. I personally am not going to grab either of them, although I do personally like Nurturing Instincts. It is a good talent, but I'm going to grab Heart of the Wild for the 10% increased AP as a cat, because 10% more AP coupled with all of the crit and all of the damage bonuses in Feral is going to do a ridiculously high amount of damage. It's a lot about increasing your damage as a cat, because you're limited to leather armor versus plate like a Ret Pally would have. So your survivability does have, if you will, a quote-unquote cap compared to other classes that can be sitting in plate. I know a lot of you will disagree with me on that, but in my opinion it's the truth, because you can only have so much armor when you're sitting in leather versus plate. So the more damage you can push out, the better, because you really can't focus on armor as a cat. And that is my opinion on Feral Cat PvP specking. Thank you for listening, This is only a suggestion, and feel free to disagree in the comment section below. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and thumb up or down, and please tell your friends about my guides if you enjoyed them and think they are a good source of learning. I can't wait to make another one for you next time, guys, and thank you for watching again.